these areas, getting these applications done. Then a few slides on the aerial program this year. This was the first map generated by Department of Agriculture once Mass Department of Public Health put their public health certification in place. You can see the town of Ashland is fully encompassed in this red outline. This was probably about the time of exposure for that triple E human case, because there tends to be a 7 to 10 day incubation period. So whether or not this was before, after, or right about the same time the human case contracted it, no one can really tell for sure, but indications had started in southeastern Mass that triple E was starting to show up, and then very quickly thereafter it started popping up in the Metro West area, and Mass Department of Public Health and Department of Agriculture got involved and got these aircraft up in this area. We do fall under the Mass Department of Agriculture. However, we weren't intimately involved in this. It happens a few levels above us.
Okay.
They do look to us to do pre and post trapping, to identify areas that were of concern and things like that. We're more the boots on the ground in this instance. So on August 26th and 27th, this application was done. Then subsequently, on the 10th through the 17th, we were continuing to trap triple E mosquitoes in this area. So they expanded that zone a few days later. It took nearly a week to get this application done because they were starting to be inhibited by cooler nighttime temperatures and some wind and rain issues, as I recall. And then finally, in our service area, anyway, on the 16th and 17th, they did an area out by Sturbridge with some horse cases in the Brookfields. So this is a graphic of the arbovirus, which is a virus transmitted by insects, the transmission cycle. Birds are the reservoir. Triple E, West Nile virus are in the bird populations. The birds, through their migration patterns from the southern climates up through Florida and New Jersey, we start to see early indications of Triple E and West Nile coming up through our counterparts in those more southerly districts. West Nile and Triple E do not affect the bird populations. Now, we may recall in the early 2000s, West Nile virus was a brand new virus, and birds were dropping by the tens of thousands or probably more. However, to this point now, some 20 years later, they have developed immunities so that West Nile does not affect them. Triple E could potentially have been in this area for 100 years, maybe longer. There's some historical records of sleeping sickness and some horse cases in the 1800s, but again, we'll never quite know for sure. But again, we track the bird patterns. We can watch this virus come up the coast and be as prepared for it as we possibly can be. Mosquitoes are the vector. They are the ones that transmit this virus through the bird populations, amplifying it. What happens is a mosquito bites a bird, picks up the blood to develop eggs. In that blood is a virus. The mosquito then develops eggs from that blood. That virus then migrates from the stomach to the salivary glands, and then the next time that mosquito bites to get another blood meal, it transmits that virus. It's the same way that dog heartworm is transmitted, West Nile virus. There's been a lot of testing done on many different viruses, and thankfully for us, a majority of the viruses that mosquitoes pick up are either ingested by the mosquitoes and destroyed, or they cannot get to that salivary gland. Unfortunately, there are some viruses that can make it through that process, so therefore we have to be, of course, very concerned with that. Now, there's a specific species of mosquito called Culiceta melanura. I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment as well. That is the primary vector of Triple E among the birds. It prefers to bite birds, and almost exclusively birds. There's been genetic testing done. It shows about up to a 5% mammalian blood meals, so 95% of their blood meals come from the bird populations. There's a little spillover, but for the most part, it's strictly the birds. We start to get more concerned when we see other species of mosquitoes that will bite a bird, lay eggs, bite a horse, lay eggs. In other words, they're more indiscriminate. They're not quite as picky on how or where they get their blood meals from. So that's why it's very important for us to identify these mosquito samples to species. Culiceta melanura is always going to be the sample we're going to send in first. Typically and historically, we'll see Triple E there first. Not always, but most of the time. Then once we do, we really start ramping up our testing protocols for these other species that will bite people, will bite birds. They don't particularly have a fondness for either. So that's called an incidental infection. Now, if a horse gets Triple E or a human gets Triple E or West Nile, mosquitoes can't pick it up from us. Even though it makes us sick, and unfortunately in some cases it is fatal, we don't have high enough virus to get transmission from the mosquitoes to another person. However, yellow fever, malaria, there are plenty of viruses that people carry. Zika virus, we might remember from a few years ago. People have enough of those viruses that mosquitoes can pick it up from us. So there's not much we can do with the birds except monitor them and see what's happening as they come up the coast. So we need to be sure that, we're trying to get as much information as early as possible. Our traps tend to go out right around mid-May when the first hatch of mosquitoes comes off, and it's very important to keep that going all through the summertime.
How about the things that eat mosquitoes, are they bats, are they affected if they ingest
No.
one that's, no?
No, there's been a lot of testing on other animals that could potentially harbor Triple E, because sometimes Triple E comes up and we're not finding in the bird mosquitoes. Well, where did it get picked up from? There's still a lot of unanswered questions. They've seen some Triple E virus in snakes, but snakes being a cold-blooded animal, the mosquitoes that bite cold-blooded animals really don't bite warm-blooded animals. So there's still a lot of work that tends to go on, but our focus really is the American robin and the wood thrush. They have kind of pared down the species of birds that tend to carry it up, and unfortunately, of course, there's thousands upon them up here. But and I'll talk a little bit more about a little of that mosquito species as well. Just some numbers from last year: 428 mosquito pools or collections positive statewide. That's an absolutely phenomenal number. We've never seen anything like that. 8 horses were positive for Triple E. I believe they did all succumb to the virus, and unfortunately 12 humans with 3 deaths as well. There is a good vaccine for horses for both Triple E and West Nile virus. Some 25, 30 years ago, they were more of what we call a sentinel. Horses being, of course, exposed just about 24 hours a day to mosquitoes would often show illness earlier on, but with the vaccination protocols that are in place, we don't tend to see as many horses involved. This is the Triple E risk map that Mass Public Health puts out. You can see the town of Ashland, of course, being unfortunately right in the middle of that red, indicating critical risk for Triple E last year. So some plans for coming up this year. Our standard approach, right now we're doing ditch maintenance in some of our communities. Fairly soon we're going to start to see larval hatch. We're going to get our technicians out, start surveying our wetlands, doing our wetlands treatments, and then going into catch basin treatments, and then the spray program as the weather warms up in June. However, the districts have been meeting on a monthly basis with Mass Public Health and other stakeholders to consider doing additional larval treatments in suspected Melanura and these other species that I haven't mentioned yet. It's called Coquilitidia perturbans. Now, both of these species are very challenging to treat for in their larval habitat, and I'll explain why. Culicida melanura, that is the species that takes Triple E in the bird populations. They develop in the root systems of cedar swamps and red maple swamps. Trees, when they're in these very wet habitats, as they mature, the root systems create a domed type surface, and that's called a crypt. And that species will not develop in the wetland area around it. It will only develop in that root system underneath that tree. It's a very protected system. So our larval treatments, granular bacterias, are very difficult to get into that larval habitat because in many instances, the holes to get in there are only a few millimeters wide. We could theoretically use liquid treatments to hopefully have rain wash it in. Unfortunately, again, the bacteria that we use tend to bind to soil and organic matter, so once it's applied, it tends to stay right there. It also activates quickly and dies off as quickly as well. So that poses its own challenge. Coquilitidia perturbans is another species that we've all experienced because unfortunately it comes out in really large numbers around the first week in July. That's called the cattail mosquito because unlike other mosquito larvae that freely float throughout the water, attach to the surface of the water and breathe air, Perturbans does not freely flow. Their siphon, their air tube, pierces the root system of the plant and they breathe through the plant. So they don't actively move around. So a lot of our bacterial products don't present themselves to this type of mosquito. And of course, I don't know if anyone's ever tried to walk through a cattail swamp, but they're very dense, they're very difficult to walk through. So we are looking at doing some, trying some different products, different bacterial products, as well as working with some manufacturers and some other researchers to determine if we can get some of these larval habitats treated so that we can reduce some of these emergences and hopefully nip that triple E cycle early on.
I have cattails in my backyard.
They're everywhere. And it's not just cattails, it's purple loosestrife, it's sedges, which are those hummocks, you see those hummock swamps. This is a map of potential melanura or potential cedar swamp, red maple swamp wetlands. Now, what we're currently doing, we've had staff now for about just about 10 days going out to all these areas that we identified on a map layer to then go out and check, is this just a wetland or does this wetland have that root system, that crowning root system that has potential for this mosquito to develop in? We can check off a lot of those because more than likely they don't exist. However, the ones that do exist, we need to define so that we can target for potential treatments this coming
And
spring.
does it make a difference what the size of the wetlands, big, small, medium?
It makes a difference to the mosquito to a point because the more mature the wetland, the larger the trees, the larger the crown is. So yes, we think that a lot of the reason that Triple E has started to move from the southeastern part of the state up into Metro West and even as far as southern New Hampshire is a lot of these wetlands have become more mature over the past 30 to 40 years. The trees that once started out very small are now much larger, their root systems are much bigger, and there's now more potential habitat for that species of mosquitoes to develop in. And then this is a similar map of
What's the numbers represent?
The
acreage.
yellow,
Okay.
Yeah, the numbers represent acreages. The larger the number is a larger acreage wetland. And this is potential cattail habitat as well, which honestly is much easier to identify. Sometimes you don't even have to get out of the truck to see it because cattails tend to be fairly large. We also look for Phragmites, which is that very tall 10-foot weed, which we don't have a significant amount of, as well as loosestrife. So again, there's been a lot of work that's being done out in the fields that we've already started with. So very briefly, in a nutshell, kind of what we're looking at and what we're hoping to accomplish this upcoming year. So any specific questions?
That was a lot, thank you.
Yes.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Couple of years ago, I know you sent me a list of water bodies in Ashland. The question is, do you get notification when they have new developments and new areas of water bodies they create? Do you get them or you don't get them?
We don't get notifications per se, but our staff do make notations. Everything else we work off a tablet. So in our GS program, if they see a new wetland, new constructed wetland, they'll make a notation on that tablet. They'll get a designation for a unique number, and then as the larval treatments and inspections occur, that all gets tracked in the software.
Yeah, I know that a couple of years ago when you sent it, I did see a couple of them missing, but I haven't recently checked it, but I'll probably go back and check again.
Yeah.
If you send me the list again.
Sure.
I like that you're gonna work on beavers. I know behind AC Whittemore, some people had problems once. I don't know if they,
Tim, you actually worked on that area,
Yeah.
if
Okay.
you wanna explain it, if you knew what you did, but they were out there
Oh,
actually
great.
helping us out.
Just
Because I-
recently, right?
Well, towards the landfill, that area there, and they were out towards the downside of Whittemore a
They
couple of
just-
years
they
ago,
just-
and just recently, the railroad
Right,
paid
that's
for
what I
that
think you're, yeah,
service.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
When railroads get involved, usually adds an extra wrinkle, because they don't obviously like people on their properties, but that's right near the Indian Brook, right?
Yeah,
They were concerned enough to send their own people out because it was affecting their train
Exactly.
Yeah.
bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought Megan was planning on something else. I don't know whether you were involved in it, the beaver management.
We're
New-
looking
new
at.
staff or new
She's
funding or
doing
whatever.
a survey, but It's a matter of doing that analysis, seeing what towns offer beaver management.
Right.
It's a great idea, KG, it's just,
Internally?
it's a costly idea at
Right.
the same time.
Is that internally?
Yeah, well, it would be depending on what the town wishes to vote for, but it could be internally as well.
Is that what her survey is to see what if other towns have it?
I believe that's what she's doing.
The other question I had was, you said, was it 8 horses succumb? Did any of them have the vaccine?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. So is there some kind of education program to people that have horses?
We do have specialized literature that we give out to our horse owners as well. Basically, you know, check with the veterinarian, make
Yeah.
sure that the cycle. Some veterinarians, I think, are starting to recommend an initial early treatment and then a subsequent booster,
Okay.
either part way or most of the way through the summertime. And again, in West Nile virus, there's also a good vaccine for that as well,
Okay.
for the horses. Unfortunately, due to the testing protocols for people, and expense, you know.
Now, do mosquitoes not like dogs? Or do they bite dogs?
They bite dogs, but dogs are not affected by triple E. It's, you know, they have found triple E in a lot of other animals. Deer, for example, it's been, you know, with deer hunting, and there's been a lot of surveys of deer blood. And they'll pick up the virus in the deer, so they know the deer have been exposed to it, but deer they're just not affected by it. So for some quirk of our physiology, horses, humans, West Nile, triple E. So
Almost for the ground animals.
they have found triple E in almost every animal they've tested in some way, shape, or form. Because again, they tend to get exposed. Chipmunks, squirrels, I mean,
It's just a matter of them succumbing to it though, right? I mean, you might,
They're
right.
not succumbing to it, and they don't think they're involved in that cycle. They don't tend to get enough virus so that a mosquito can pick it up and pass it on.
Thank you.
Tim, so, and this, and Mark probably knows this, but I don't know it, and probably the public doesn't know it. How does your information get disseminated? Is it your own website? Is it part of the Mass Department of Public Health? The communities that you serve? Do you get in touch with the health agent and say, get this out to your crowd? Because I know that Judy had, discussed potentially looking at the process by which we try to get this information out to people, because the only thing, that the little bit of the few people that actually spoke to me about it from the public standpoint was that, we kind of knew, what was going on.
Right.
We knew that it was there, but we didn't know what the town was doing and things like
Yeah.
that.
We do have a full-service website. I know Ashland, the Board of Health, links directly from that. We are involved in social media with Facebook and Twitter. When we have issues like viruses, we communicate directly with our boards of health. They're our point of contact for all of our communities. And we do ask them to use their avenues as well to get the word out. So, as you can expect, it's difficult to tell everybody, even if you knocked on everyone's door and send everybody a letter. But,
Right.
we do work very closely with our partners to get information out as rapidly as possible. We link to Mass Public Health as well as Mass Department of Agriculture. They don't typically tend to link from us. There might be a small link buried somewhere. But certainly the public, if there's an issue in Ashland, can get information from Mass Public Health on a more generalized basis, and then more specific stuff they can get from us or through the department.
I'm thinking of being a little proactive, like there aren't that many people in Ashland that have horses, but there certainly are some, and they probably have to register them in some way, shape, or form. So can we, send any information out to them about the vaccine available and that kind of thing, because it seems like
the
an
department
easy thing to
licenses
do
them.
to, help
Yeah.
somebody in town that.
Absolutely. If there's a point of contact, we'd love to give our information to that person, and, any information we can get out to the horse.
Do you have maybe like a handout or something that we could send out,
Yeah,
with,
it's called a rack card. It's about this
Okay.
big.
About horses
Yeah.
only?
that would be
Okay,
good?
so maybe can we get the PDF form of it?
Yep.
And, maybe, we could certainly put it on the town website as
Well,
well, but
the department licenses horse farms,
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm sure there can't be that many, so I'm sure we can
that's
just
what I'm
mail it to
saying,
them,
yeah.
do a
So
quick mail
I
in.
think that would be really great idea.
I just had a question about just about the tires, because I know we have a lot of auto mechanic shops here. Same thing, do you have like information that I mean, I know we have a lot on our
Right.
plate, all of us, but maybe if there's a handout that we could give them to, I know there's one place in particular, I noticed they have a large pile of tires, and
Yeah.
I think that if they knew, if we educate them, maybe it might help them. Or even that, do you offer
Will you go to
a
a business?
disposal program?
Businesses are about the only ones
Okay.
who don't,
Okay.
because typically they charge to get,
Yeah,
in other words, I would pay $1 to get rid of it, so we don't wanna generate somebody's side business, but
right,
we do have information
Okay.
that we could give to them. In many instances, the place we bring our tires to in Littleton will offer
Okay.
their services to
Okay.
these
I'm
communities.
just thinking the same thing, maybe if we try to do a little bit more
Yeah.
education, you know, and try to help with that.
And at the very least, if they're relatively uncooperative, if we're aware of it, our techs can go out and dip the tires and treat them as needed.
Okay,
You know, again, it's something, I mean, that tire pile on Pond Plaza was one of the first places I was shown in 1983. And I was said, because he was way behind, you never would have known it was there. And see, I grew up in this area, so I remember when Mammoth Mart was there, and
Yeah.
Dino's Pizza, you know, God rest his soul. So I knew the area, but, you know, they showed me where this tire was, my technician at the time, and he said, make sure you check this every week. And, you know, even back then, there were trees, you know, 6, 8 inches in diameter growing through these tires. So they've been there since the 50s or the 60s.
Wow.
So, and it doesn't take long, again, for that mosquito, that habitat to develop. There were thousands coming out of there on a weekly basis. So, you know, the tire program has been very popular for us, we're very thankful for that.
and another, I guess it's a technical question, but I believe last year we collectively, the whole town, residents, were waiting for the aerial maps to be updated by I think it was the Department of Public Health. And of course, it takes a little bit of time because they have a lot going on, but
Right.
is that something that, like what you have showing what was sprayed, we could link to our website? Like, is that public information that as you spray,
Yes.
we can have a link, so then at least our residents will know, oh, they were just on Main Street, or they were just on,
Yeah, the aerial maps were updated and there were links. The problem was, of course, that the air spray was being done at night. So then there was staff up all night, and then those maps were then sent into Boston about 5 or 6 in the morning.
Okay.
And then the other second shift, or first shift, really,
Okay.
that would come in, we have to reinterpret that, and then they put those maps
so that's the
out.
same mapping system is pretty much what it is, the
Yeah.
same, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
just there was
It's
a
just-
delay because
okay.
of the,
okay,
you know, the pilots had to get it to the GIS people had to make sense of it.
Right.
And get it to the normal person like me who can actually read it, so.
right,
We're hoping that's not gonna happen again. I mean, again, I've been doing this some time now, and again, in growing up in this area, there's never been an aerial spray for mosquitoes. In the 70s, any of us that were around then, they did air spray for gypsy moth. That's when the no spray, or the exclusion laws came through. However, this was the first time in Metro West it's ever been sprayed by air for mosquitoes. I'm hoping it's the last. You know, so that's why we're trying to get that early season intervention from those more difficult species. We don't know until we try,
right.
so.
And this is, and Mark may have discussed this, I can't recall. And so for either of you, based upon the last, October 19th risk map, do you attempt, or does somebody try to attempt to forecast what the potential risk for the following season might be? So if there is that, we can maybe get that out earlier. How does that work?
Mass Public Health, through their epidemiology program, will look at that, and they take a lot of factors into consideration, because right now, there's potential for AAA to start showing up in Florida. And if we're starting to see in Florida, then there's potential for it to start to come up the coast as the weather warms and birds migrate. So yes, typically what they'll do is they'll take their risk maps and back every community off 1 or 2 levels. So in other words, this is the first time many of these communities have ever gone critical, let alone high. So I don't know where Ashland will fall this coming year. I would suspect it would be at least a moderate. It could potentially be a high. But I don't think they're gonna come in at the high level to start, because that in itself triggers a lot of actions. In other words, at a high level of risk, we should be out there adulticiding every place. And that is not gonna be necessary, at least for the start of the summer. Because again, we really don't typically start to see AAA. First week or 2 in July would be very early. Unfortunately, last year, that's about when it started showing up in southeastern Mass. And, by late July, it was starting to pop up around here a little bit, and in August, it was just everywhere. So yes, they do look at that, and they take those things into consideration, and they will publish a new map. I don't know when, probably sometime in May, but it will come out, and then it'll show what the communities are currently in for risk at that time. You just have to remember that it's more of a historical risk. It doesn't represent current data because there really hasn't been any collections until exactly June.
So if the climate change is the one which is affecting more, the trigger may not be in May, it could be in April.
There's
So that
definitely
you-
potential. In my short period of time, I'm talking historically, we have seen 3 species of mosquitoes become common in Massachusetts. We've seen West Nile virus, that was first discovered in 1999 in New York, was here in 2000, and then by 2005 it swept the nation. So just in our short little time, in looking at the geological or, aspect of it, there has been a lot of changes. We're seeing, the thermoclines. I mean, I used to garden a lot. I don't garden as much anymore. But the frost maps, the zones where you do your planting, those have all changed. We're seeing species that were less tolerant of cold moving in this direction because we're warmer now. And here I sit with, rain falling in the middle of February. And how much snow do we have this year? Very little. So while that's a tiny part of, that's a microcosm
Yeah.
of what we've seen, definitely things have changed. I
So the-
remember snowier winters when I was
So
a kid.
department is cautious about it, so they will keep checking on it.
Mhm.
They're not going to just start putting the trap only in May, but if things happen before, they will probably work on it.
Yes, through our larval surveys and our runs, we can get a sense of if we're gonna have an early spring. About 10 years ago, we did have hatch the first week of May, because I remember Cinco de Mayo, which the 5th of May, just, that's how I remember it. We actually did a couple of limited truck applications because mosquitoes had come out so heavily and it was so warm that then, of course, things cooled off and we get into more of a typical pattern through that month of May. But there's been those little anomalies that have kind of popped up. And I mean, historically, I was in the field for 15 years before I got in the administration, so I sprayed, I've done all of that. When I started and up through all the 80s and into the 90s, by late August, it got too cold at night to spray. It really wasn't conducive to that spray program. And now, some 20 years after that, we're spraying into October. Now granted, that's a virus situation, a warm enough evening, et cetera. There's a lot of caveat to that. But whereas the spray program, Labor Day, you could write it on the calendar. Now we will schedule the month of September just because we don't quite know what the weather's going to be, and we still better be ready. Just because it hit Labor Day doesn't mean we stop. So.
Predictability is tough.
Mhm.
I know Mark addressed it already in an email, but I mean, in general, the springtime is not a concern, because I know that, I think it was the athletic department, I believe, maybe reached out, or somebody was concerned about planning the activities, but right now it's not a concern
No.
in the spring, it would be later on,
Yes. We get a call every
just in
once in
case
a while.
anybody's, well, hopefully somebody's watching us.
Right. We'll get a call about once a week, or maybe I'll get an email. I just saw a mosquito. Why am I seeing a mosquito? And they will come out in January and February. There's 2 or 3 species that actually hibernate as an adult mosquito. Most mosquitoes spend the winter in the egg form. There's a couple of species that will do it in the larval form, and it can actually be frozen solid in ice. Then the ice melts and the larvae are happy as can be. Then there's a couple of species that will spend the winter in adult form. And I've seen it myself where on a nice warm January day, I killed 10 mosquitoes one time at my house. But see, I was right near the house and they were probably in the eaves or behind my shutters in a nice sheltered little location. Temps had warmed up, it was in the mid-40s, low 50s. They got active, they come out, they tried to bite. So every once in a while, like, I got mosquitoes now, how can this be? It's February. We can identify it's probably 1 or 2 different species. They're generally not a concern and not even really coming out in
Good to
nuisance
know,
numbers.
yeah.
And they find shelter.
Absolutely. Don't forget, they've been around for millions of years. They have found, this one that will only develop in a dome, who would have thought of that? Somehow or another, they have a genetic mutation or some adaptation that favored that habitat, and then subsequently, that's the only place it will develop now. So.
Awesome.
Okay,
Anybody
that's
have
great.
any more questions?
Thank you,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
informative.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Happy to be here, Mark, thank you.
Tim.
Yes,
We'll be in touch as we always are.
You bet.
I always appreciate your help, so.
And we appreciate your service.
yes, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So, can I come up with a couple of action items for us based on this overview? That we get that electronic, document about horses and mail it to anybody that has a horse farm in Ashland?
Sure,
Can't be more than
yeah.
10, right?
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I don't know how many we have, but yeah.
And that if they also have one for the tire program, I think that should go on our website, and maybe we should share that with the DPW, that they can share with their news, that if you have old tires in your yard, that free pickup, go to this website and click on this, and maybe we could get rid of some tires in town too.
Well, I was gonna say with my daytime hat, maybe we could do the same thing and mail it out to people who have Class 2 licenses as well, because the same thing, there's not, you
Exactly.
know, there might be 15 or
Right.
something, but just information, because more information we get out there, the
Yeah,
earlier,
I didn't know,
so-
I mean, tire program,
Yeah.
people have tires like sitting next to their house or in their backyard, because they don't know what to do with them.
Right, yeah.
Let's get
Yeah.
that mosquito
Sure, they
breeding
can
thing
probably-
out of there.
Add a line in their water bill and then send it to everybody.
Yeah, that it's free.
Well, they'll
Right?
do it on like, I think they'll do, my understanding is they'll do it on, like, in wetlands or on property, but not, if you have a private residence, and if you have tires, they won't come and remove
I
them
thought-
for you, right, isn't it just for,
Should I run and ask them?
We can have them come back. Mark, are they still down there?
Here, Laura.
oh. That's it, we can get,
Check
I mean, we
with
can get clarification for the information.
Find that out.
Okay. But either way, we can pass along the information about the tire
Send a
program.
message to him, he will send
On the right, yeah, exactly.
He's good at it.
Yeah,
He's
it's on
good.
the website.
Yeah, we were just talking about maybe sending it to maybe Class 2 dealers or something, just to educate them.
You have his email here anyway. So
Right, I think it's great.
All right.
he's good at it.
I
Very
know, It's
responsive.
been in the industry a long time. All right, anybody else have anything that they want to conclude to that, or you want to move on? Good. All right, so the next item on the agenda is board goals and objectives. So I don't know if each member has had a chance to think about just any goals and objectives for this upcoming year. I mean, I'll go first because I know that it's actually part of old business, I think, the chair's report. One of my goals is to still work on the regionalization program with Framingham. Mark and I have a meeting tomorrow with them, and hoping to get more information, as well as, keep the process going. And then, work with Mark on the Medical Reserve Corps to, build strength in that committee. So those were my two. They're ongoing, but just didn't know if anybody had anything new that they wanted to work on, or, I mean, even the same thing, we can keep it as an agenda item if people want to think about it, or work with Mark and come up with some new ideas. I thought it would be good if we all had
Yeah.
projects, if you will.
We'll continue with my food program thing. I'll
Okay.
Work with Mark and then Tim, Tom
Okay.
and Laura.
Okay,
Check through all the applications as I do before, so.
I like ideas of kind of, keeping the public awareness and, kind of pressure on for speakers every once in a while, exactly like this, because I think this is, very educational, like to have, when Ed does the pesticide
Yep.
thing, and I know we have, I think CC Doucette is
Yep.
coming up about the 5G
Yep.
and Generation Zap. I think that is good, or, any, like potentially Mary Cole with smoking cessation, or, DEAT with, what they're doing. I think
Having speakers,
they
yeah.
play, a very big role, for us, so
Absolutely.
as
I think
as
it's a
on
great
to the
idea.
public health. I like even things like, and I think we do this anyway, seasonal public, awareness of things, summertime, whether it's, the, swimming in the reservoirs, look out for signs, there may be bacteria in there, the mosquito things like we just talked about, even just, the ticks with the Lyme as well, just to keep all, those, I don't know how we do that. Do we do that kind of stuff already, Mark, or is it just that people have access to it on our website?
Well, we try to get information out through the media, and now more social media than
Yeah.
the newspaper media, but we can continue to do that. We had a monthly column with the old Ashland directions, so we can lead off from that and get it to social media, which we've been doing more of, after
Do
hearing
you
from.
do Twitter as well, or is it Twitter or is it just
We
Facebook?
go to Facebook,
Okay.
and we utilize our Facebook account.
The Town of
through Beth.
Ashland one,
Yep,
yep.
yep, through Beth.
So, yeah.
Holmes.
Okay. And then, just for me, I know you're doing this, so you shouldn't, you got enough stuff to do, but I'm gonna continue to go to the DAET meetings and, if I can find out about their stuff early enough that we can kind of help advocate and support them,
Right.
because at least we have the television forum, and unfortunately, they don't have that. I know they get their things out, but that Hidden in Plain Sight program was, I think, very well attended, and
Yep.
I think they did a lot of work on that. I think they do a great job of,
And I
helping
found it,
us out.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to still, as well, you keep involved with those meetings. I don't know if there's a glitch in the email. I don't think I'm getting emails
Oh,
about
really?
notifications anymore, but
Okay.
I could work on that. But the same thing, that information, even if at meetings, that, if you have things coming up, just that you announce them to let people
Yeah.
know. I think that's very helpful, because
Yeah,
I think even with the select board, when they announce things, I think it's helpful for the public to know of upcoming events.
yeah.
So that's good.
That'd be
That'd be
nice.
good.
Yeah.
And maybe even establish, I don't know if it, will be part of your goals and objectives, but, even maybe establishing, like, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I think, and at one time, I think we did that, is just, so then
Mhm.
maybe we even, whether it's a speaker or information that we give out or put on a website or something, just to kind of be with the monthly, topic.
Mhm.
Might be a good idea. Judy, any thoughts over there?
No.
Okay. Okay. So what I was thinking also is just in general is when we have our agenda items, even like myself, I usually have the regionalization under my name. If there's, community updates or whatever the case may be, just let us know so we can put them down, because I just want to make sure if it's a reoccurring subject that we keep it on the agenda so we don't forget items.
Okay.
So I think it'd be helpful for us as well, putting together the agenda. So, all right, well, just, if anybody has anything else in the future, just, let us know. We'll probably keep it on for maybe a couple more meetings, just as topic.
The goals, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
I mean,
also-
I'm definitely the medical corps. I really have to put a process in place. I felt like, that I turned in my application, but there was some confusion as to who does what, and so I don't want people, so I guess what we have to find out is, I don't want people to feel that they fill that out and then they come and get it signed that they are who they say they are, to take the further step to get it to the agent in
Well,
Framingham.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to have to drive down to town hall, get something that says, yes, show their license and say, yes, you are Ron,
Well, I think
and then,
it would be good to put it on as an agenda item as well, same thing. I
Okay.
think it would be good to have it as an
so
item to just
develop the
discuss.
process and,
Yeah,
because
or
I don't
ev-
wanna be recruiting and not
No.
really knowing the process that people go through, because everybody has said the same thing to me. Yes, if it's easy, I'll sign up, but
Right.
if I make it difficult,
And,
it's not gonna be.
and I can concur with what you're saying.
Okay,
So I think we should put it on
all right,
at the next agenda and actually
Okay.
have it as part of a discussion and just go over the
to talk
process.
it through.
Yep, just to talk it through, so we
Okay.
all know the process, as
Okay,
well as
great.
for the public. Just make sure we understand it, so we can sell it, so we can go to other groups and,
Right, because I'd like to go to Lions, I'd like to go to the Selectmen,
yeah, so, if it's okay with everybody here, we can put it on for the next agenda,
Perfect.
so then we can,
perfect.
There's no directive from the DPH for the coronavirus yet, right?
Oh, there is, and it's on our website, the link to it. There's definitely information coming out of both CDC and the Massachusetts Department of Public Health,
So
so.
have they suggested
we have
any
both-
precautionary measures for people here?
What's that again?
Have they suggested any precautionary measures?
Well, they're all on the links that are on our website, and this, obviously the cautions are there as well.
So if you put your bulletin out next time, then maybe
We
add a couple
do
sentences.
have.
well, even the same
the
thing,
links change daily.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah, you can
maybe.
just tell them to go down to that link, whatever it is. and
Yes,
then
that's
Yeah, and I
Anyway.
mean, and the same, but I think, maybe it's the same thing, maybe just a quick, maybe just put it on the agenda, it's just a quick update, nothing you know,
Correct.
there could be nothing or it
I
could be
agree.
something.
Well, we got it out just now. That's a good thing. Go to
Yeah,
our
exactly.
website and
Yeah.
links for CDC.
Well, that's why,
and
honestly, that's why I asked
DPHS.
about which
That was
social
good.
media, because, you know, at least people will know that your information is going on Facebook, so at least they'll know.
Yeah, and Facebook. It's
Yep,
true, we
yep.
did, thank you for
Yep.
bringing that up, because
Yep.
coronavirus, we also
Continuously
sent something to
developing
Facebook.
situation, you never know what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, and if I can put another plug out there, because even on our website, there's a notification center that you can sign up to receive notifications for different subjects,
Yeah.
different departments, trash, water, Board of Health, agendas, so you can go to the website and sign up to receive notification from different departments, so that's another way of receiving information.
And our website's going to only improve from what I hear. We're gonna update the website, once we get someone in town to work on, social events and so forth, as well as social media. That person will be involved with updating the website as well, the whole town's website, which we're part of.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item, if everybody's all set. Anything new, Judy, with the air quality for the,
No, can we ask Mark to reach out to the superintendent and
Just-
find out, you know?
Usually for superintendent and so forth, the chair does
I can do
that.
I can do it.
Yeah,
All right.
it's just that level of, I don't mind doing it,
No,
but
I
the
can do-
level is always
Okay.
going with the chair.
That, just,
Yeah, no
you know,
problem. If
for
you,
an update.
yeah, I was gonna
I don't
say-
know if they've sent anything out, I don't know.
I haven't seen anything on the same thing. I don't subscribe to their news post on their
Right.
website, but, I mean, I'll look into it, and if there's information, I'll pass it along.
Great,
And then we'll just leave it on the agenda for next
Sure.
meeting, just for
okay.
information purposes. But I will do that.
I can help you if you want. It's
Okay, yeah,
just-
no, that's fine. I'll find out if the information's there, and then we can circulate the information if it's there. And then, so the next item for the agenda is the Mary Mortensen Public Health Award. Excuse me. Discuss recipients for the 2020. Excuse me, sorry. Voice is a little harsh, I apologize. So my thought on this is, just because I know the family schedule, my thought is if the board members wanted to think about this, and maybe at the next meeting, maybe think about it and come up with a recipient or recipients. Normally, it's awarded in March, but again, I know family schedules, maybe if we do the award, the first meeting in April,
Okay,
so the family can be here. But then it will give the board members a couple of weeks to think about it, or
have them been past members, or is this the first?
it was named after Mary Mortensen, the
Right.
annual award, but the
Okay.
recipients was Janet Gamache
Ed Hart.
and Ed Hart was, this would be the third,
Okay.
so they were people.
Okay,
So Ed was the first, and then Janet Gamache was last year.
okay.
So the board members can come up with a nomination of a person, or it could be a committee for that matter. I believe it can be a committee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it could, okay, it could be
What
a
it says.
committee. Yeah. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
And then we notify, the recipient, and they come in to a meeting, and we would present them there's actually a name plaque, so in the foyer by the elevator, their name plaque will go on the plaque.
All
So
right,
it was-
so can I ask a question?
You can ask them, and of course.
So there's some great, for instance, I'm a walker, so there's some great scouts that have an open access area over from Cross to High to Cross. And also the Ashland Town Forest, they've built bridges out there so that people can go out and walk and do so safely.
Yeah.
So would something like that be,
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I was
public
gonna
health.
say, yeah, it sounds like- yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're,
was gonna say,
they're getting people out to walk.
I mean, they're
Absolutely.
such extraordinary young
Yeah.
adults that are doing that. And it's pretty amazing the
Yeah.
things I don't know if you've ever seen the bridge that they put in.
Yeah. I think, it wasn't in the paper? It was in the Ashland, it was
So,
in
no,
there
there's
when
a-
they opened it, I think.
There's
I
a
think I
very
saw
big
it.
bridge. It went in, I think, just a few years ago.
Yeah, it was
In
a
the town
couple years
forest?
ago.
No, not in the
Oh,
town
the
forest.
other
It's
one.
on the Boy Scout reservation, but it's open to the public to pass through because it connects with other trails. And it's right off of, if you park at the corner of Cross Street and Howe, you'll see a path going in, there's an iron gate. And if you walk just a little way in there, you'll see.
Do you know if it was an
It's a bridge
Eagles?
big enough for,
Was it an Eagle Scout
I
project?
believe it was, yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if,
You
You
could
know.
bring a car over it, it's that big.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite a brook rushing under it.
But yes, that either person or organization would qualify.
Okay.
And even with that is if you
I
want
don't
to
know who
just.
did it, but I want to
No,
know.
but that's what I was gonna do, but it would be good research for you, find
Right.
out maybe some information and then present it, and then, we
Okay.
can vote on it, and hopefully we have a couple of.
What's the qualifications?
Well, Mark, what it, oh, I'm sorry, I think you can say something. It says, the concept, each year, the Ashland Board of Health will honor an Ashland citizen or organization for efforts concerning public health, named after and honoring longtime Ashland Board of Health member Mary Penny Mortensen. So that's the criteria. It's a matter of formality. This is okay if we do it in April, right?
Oh, sure,
Okay,
I
all
don't
right,
think
okay.
we can make that.
Okay.
I was
Yeah, okay.
thinking of suggesting Amy Twincliffe's name, so
Okay,
she has done sizable amount of work for the public.
okay.
It would be
Well,
Amy
I know at one point, I don't have a preference whether it's a person or an organization, but I know that when I mentioned last year, Janica Marsh, originally I had said decisions at every turn. But, if you,
Right,
She's-
that's who I was gonna say, I mean, because it encompasses that whole group, and I think they all do a
Wait,
great job.
She should be a good leader in pushing that through, so.
right. Yeah, and I mean, maybe if we have a couple, because it would be good to,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah. All right. All right. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the chair's report. I did give a quick update. Mark and I are attending a regional meeting tomorrow in Framingham to discuss the regional nursing services with the city of Framingham. Just to kind of reiterate for the public, they are providing nursing services for us right now. I know one thing I would like just to see while we're working the process is just maybe getting some numbers. Just curious how many people they're targeting, what are they doing, just so we have it for information.
Okay.
So I'm gonna keep that on the agenda, and then Mark and I hopefully will have some more information in a couple of weeks at our next meeting.
So when you say numbers, are you gonna ask like how many Ashland residents?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
are you doing flu,
They
are you
must
doing
keep-
pneumonia, are you doing,
right.
because
Right.
they have to keep it for reporting, so I'm
Right.
just thinking that if they could, while the process is going on, if we could just have some numbers.
Right.
I'll see how often they do it, but I mean, even once a month, if we could just give out some numbers,
Okay.
or receive some numbers, I should say, for that matter. So with that said, Mark, you are up,
Okay,
item
and
7.
The first item is the budget, 7A, and you have a copy of it. It's in good order. If you have any questions, let me know. It's been moving very steady through the fiscal year. This budget ends June 30th of this year. Okay, and
I was
if
gonna say, nobody has a
everyone's
question.
okay, I'll go to the next item.
I'm good.
Which is B, food establishment updates. Mozzie's Restaurant is still under construction. They're at the point of the walls are up and not plastered. They probably have more walk-in coolers in a freezer than I've ever seen in any facility outside of the supermarkets. So I expect they're gonna be doing quite a bit of business and have quite a bit of refrigerated food. I couldn't get over the size of the walk-ins. And the other one is McDonald's. Their renovation project ended and they reopened, I believe it was last Monday. So they're doing fine as well. And that's it for the food establishment updates.
All right, did everybody get a chance to take a peek at the minutes that Laura sent? December 30th, January 7th, and February 4th?
So
December 30th, okay.
the what? February 4th?
Yeah.
I'm okay with December 30th and February 4th.
So February 4th, the second page, the last paragraph, I think that we should just stop after board members read, Mr. Orm should have followed the directive of the chair, because we all agree that Mark thought he was doing the right thing, it was just the way, the process. So I think the last two sentences should be struck. 'Cause they're
I'm
not-
sorry, just so I can follow you on page 2, is that where you were on
Yeah, the
page?
last two sentences at the bottom.
Where it's, where it says Mr. Orm
Yes.
reiterated?
Yes. Or that should be higher up in the document?
Well, it looks like it might be just a,
Feels like
I-
a dangling participle there.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it being omitted, I don't think it needs to be, but, yeah.
It's
Is everybody okay
reiterated.
with omitting those last two? Okay,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
okay.
If everybody agrees, let me make a motion to approve the minute as amended for the February 4th, 2020. One by one, I'll go.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I've seen the meeting on December 30th. If
Yeah.
nobody has seen that or has not seen it, I'm fine with it too.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
I make a
Yeah.
motion that we accept them.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
And on the other one, I was not there, so somebody else has to take the lead on that.
Do I hear a motion for January 7th, 2020?
Yeah, I would accept them as is.
Second?
I'll second
Yeah.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay, moving right along. So CC Doucette, I did speak to CC Doucette. I told her I'd let her know as it got a little bit closer. Is that the right date, the 10th?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm correct.
Those are the
Okay.
primary.
I talked about maybe the first meeting in March coming and doing a presentation. So I will reach out to her and see if she's still available. We'll put her on first thing.
Okay.
Maybe do a 20-minute presentation if everybody's okay with that. Okay. I guess that's everything on the agenda.
So, the, as far as like the mailer and the tire program stuff, we said we were gonna do the medical core process.
For the next meeting?
Right.
Yep.
So, how does it work? Like, if we're asking for the mailer to go to them, do we have to approve the mail, or we can just say, please send that PDF that they have on their website to the,
Yeah, so,
how many horse farms do we have, Mark?
We have
Roughly.
5.
yeah.
Five?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean.
They can just
Yeah,
do that.
Laura can just send them
Yeah.
the information as,
Yeah.
you
They
know.
probably have you probably have their email IDs too, anyway.
If not, animal control does.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I think it should be mailed, just because I think it would be, and I just, maybe even just putting even just a cover letter, just saying the attached information is for
maybe
information
Keep
purposes
the
only.
animal
Yeah.
control
Since
person
you're registered
in the
as a
loop.
horse farm.
Right, and maybe just
Please
sending
see
it
this
over.
important information.
Yeah, she actually inspects them. Our
They're in
animal-
March, right?
She falls under us for animal inspection. So same person, Donna Walsh. So she is
Okay.
our agent that can handle the correspondence if there's any.
Sure.
But we'll send it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Make sure Donna
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
is
mean, if
part
she
of
wants
that
to, I mean,
email.
if you
It can
want
come
to
from
offer a
Donna.
letter from her, that's fine, at
Yeah.
least if people have
That way
questions.
it's
And then
coming
give her
from-
maybe some more of the pamphlets in case people need them.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So, I didn't know they had vaccines. Are they gonna have them for people?
I did know, unfortunately, I do
I
know
hope.
somebody who had to get them for their
Right,
horses,
yeah.
so I did
It'd be
know
nice
about
if
that,
they
yeah.
did.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
So,
Yeah.
all right, if everybody is, does anybody have any other things for the agenda, next agenda, that we want to add?
Just, I don't know if it has to be an agenda item, but we just haven't heard anything, and I know you would tell us that everything, I don't even know if you can discuss it, everything good at Mill Pond now? Does that seem like
It's not on
that's
the agenda, but I
So-
can share with you
Okay,
the recent
yeah.
report.
great?
Okay.
Yeah.
A food inspection.
Um, And again, I know I can bring up subjects to talk about, but we don't need to do anything for Alan McIntosh, correct? He's
at
not
this
asked for a
point.
waiver, okay,
Not at
okay.
this point.
That is for,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I apologize, Alan, I
Yep.
always call it Noodle City, and it's a different name now. So he's not looking for a waiver, so we don't need to put that on the
Okay.
next agenda, okay. All right,
Do you recall that you were supposed to send flowers for somebody? Did you
Yep.
get an extent on that?
yep, so we'll get the total after the
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
All right. If everybody is all set, we'll take
Yes.
a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.